I am who I am. What am I? I am the ideal self. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hypnovision Studios. I am your host, Nicholas. Today, I wanted to come to you in a podcast format. So if today is the first time you're hearing my voice, thank you for stopping by. And for everyone else, thank you for coming back. This evening, I thought I would read a little bit from my blue notebook, the one that started it all for this channel. And I want to share with you a few insights from my personal self-talk that has helped me to change the direction of my life. When we think about the English language in general, we don't really pay much attention to the root meanings of things. And this brings me to a topic of maritime law and the legalese or definitions of many of the words. We think about things like merchants or a merchant vessel, or we think of a merchant shop where we sell and buy things. There is a lot of things that are hidden in the English language and its double meanings. And those type things can find their way into our everyday self-talk. Now, this was something that I would have kind of shrugged off a few years ago. But the more that I dug into this, the more I started to realize just how out of the knowledge I was myself. So, with that being said, I want to share with you a few things that I have done for myself. And these are self-reflection tools. I would ask myself questions in a particular color ink and answer them in a different color. However, I would take this a step further and always ask myself questions like, why is this relevant? Does it matter to me? And oftentimes I would have the answer or either already know the answer, I just hadn't gave it any attention. And when we think about what attention really is, if you think about attention as a flashlight, the beam of light that comes from that flashlight is going to show you a circle. Now, whatever is within that circle is the only thing that is illuminated in the pure darkness of night or the darkness of a room. So when we put our attention onto something, we are by definition, in this example, illuminating something through our attention. And this is a focal point. And when we think about stories having focal points, we can easily come to the understanding of what the self story is, the internal story that we are telling ourselves in our head from a day-to-day action. And that really starts to highlight things to a different degree of understanding when you start to realize the true root meanings of the English language. So I was just looking at the definition of what esoteric means, and I find it very interesting because it is not exactly what you think it would mean. It describes something that is understood by or meant for only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest. It can refer to ideas, knowledge, or practices that are not widely known or easy accessible. The esoteric things are often associated with an inner circle or those initiated into a particular group or belief system. Now, guys, if you follow my channel for any time, you know the word belief and the word believe. When I start to play with words as that dyslexic kid who always got things turned around backwards, I play with it and I say to myself, the word believe brings life. The word believe brings life. To bring life from a belief system is to take action based upon what you believe. Very interesting. The other thing that is contained inside of the word believe is a lie. So you have to be careful with the English language, because what you can tell yourself through your self-story can become a belief, whether it is absolutely true or false. And that is called a delusion. Very interesting. The specialized knowledge of the esoteric understandings, it implies a level of understanding or expertise that is not common. These could be things from scientific theories that only experts can fully grasp. That sounds like imagination to me. Philosophical or religious doctrines meant for initiates. certain types of music or art that are appreciated by a niche audience. Very interesting. So that also reminds me of the word occult, which means hidden. So when we don't understand something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It can just be simply hidden from your awareness or your attention span. I go back to the idea of the beam of a flashlight. It only illuminates what is within that circle. And we start to understand this, that just because we don't see something doesn't mean that it's not there or that it is not possible. Because, first of all, if you can imagine it with your imagination, it is possible. It's only a matter of, can it be manifest into the physical reality? And more than times than not, yes, it can be. So some of the things I would like to share, and it does revolve around the inner child and imagination. And I find all of this stuff very interesting as a self-reflection tool. And I'm going to write or read in a manner that I haven't spoke to about myself in some time, and that is in the third person point of view. Now, why this is important to understand is placing yourself in a third person point of view is like stepping outside of yourself. It is like becoming the narrator of the body. So when we look at this through a spiritual or a mental aspect, it is becoming self-aware of that inner dialogue and becoming the narrator of the actions the body is taking. So this particular page is called The Curtain Call as the Light Shines Through. He woke from a dream of second-guessing life and feeling shoved to the side. Left and abandoned. No need to go further. He woke from a dream, but whose dream? And in that instant, he never felt so alone but free at the same time. The caged bird has started to sing. A grown man who faced trials and tribulations all his life. A grown man with a bruised ego of his life dealings. A grown man with something so pure inside, no one could ever see the heart of a child. A child, whose child? I am the child. I am. I am tender. I am tough. I am a teacher and I am a student. I am all and I am nothing. And I am weak and I am strong. I am seeing the world in many lenses now. I am attractive, smart, and funny. I am the love I never had, and I'm ready to show others how to play with a kid's imagination. So, the kid's imagination, there was a saying that I recently came across, and it was the adult who plays is the kid who survived. And that is very interesting because I think that it is a human condition to try to protect our inner child. And for me, for one, I didn't realize how deep trauma could go within inside of the human psyche itself. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I went down over the past couple of years, is the human psyche. And we start to understand that the brain works in these patterns and these pathways with the neurons, the way that they fire, and that the brain can actually rewire itself. So understanding that, the only tool needed to actually prove this theory is possible in my own life was to put it into practice. That is the serendipity mystery of theory and practice. If you can, in theory, through your imagination, daydream it, fantasize it, or even have a vision or dream about it, then it is something that could be made practical in physical life. And that is something that was really eye-opening to me, because for the first time in my life, I sat back and I started to observe more and react less to things around me. And that helped me to really gain a different perspective. As I read a while ago, I am seeing life through many different lenses now. And that was partly being able to step into that third person point of view, which is something that I used to do as a child, not so much as an adult, but also I've always been the type of person that does try to put myself in other people's shoes, but really from that point of view of the third person, myself narrating my story, it gave me the opportunity to kind of have more time of reaction and scripting out my response. So in other words, I wasn't just responding with whatever was the most current thing on my mind. So it gave me the opportunity to respond differently. And that starts to change everything. That really does, because once you start to respond different, the people who know how to push your buttons all of a sudden find frustration with you because they can no longer push your buttons. And I think we all know people in our lives or have been in our lives at different times who just love to push your buttons. That's what they live for. They love getting you all worked up and getting a reaction out of you. So the next page is perception as awareness outside of ego. Only through the lens of observing can one gain new insight. Let's make a few now that have recently come to light. Take this moment with an open mindset. The ego often acts as a guard to, and I have in quotation, I. That simply means first-person view. This view is a mixture of inner self and the outwardly self, how you present yourself. Focusing on this dynamic is the thought patterns that we are attached to and the personality traits of said person. The interesting part is this. First is what you have learned and self-conformed as true. Second is what you unknowingly learned by habit. This happens on such a deep level that many may not even realize why they do what they do or how they think the way they think. So here's an example. Babies learn by mimicking. This is very true. This is a built-in human function. We are learning machines and we can start to get stuck into patterns. These patterns follow us as the moments we start to learn them and move into adulthood unless we do something to change those patterns. This self-awareness goes hand in hand with the belief systems, which ultimately becomes a person's moral compass. Those same patterns as a child has learned to mimic may become dormant for some time as age progresses. Often it is these unpleasant things that have been suppressed, and these could be different types of trauma. These areas where the emotions did not match the environment, or in other words, identifying with the wrong meaning. So this is one of the things that you learn when you start to do self-reflection and self-healing or holistic healing, is to learn what are trigger points and what causes these trigger points and how to deal with them when they start to arise. And I find this very interesting because I wrote a lot of this stuff out after doing a lot of meditations. So seeing oneself as a victim or worthless, when these things get rooted into a belief system at a young age, this becomes the soul from which all your fruits of life comes from. Wow. I almost forgot that I wrote this. That's truly accurate. When these traumas become rooted in us as a child, they become the soul from which all of your fruits of your life come from. It makes me think of a passage from the Bible. You shall know them by their fruits. But that doesn't mean that a person is inherently evil or bad because they perhaps don't have good fruits. And that could mean anything, to be honest. But it does have a lot of truth to it when you stop and think about it. Everything that grows from the soul bears the essence through the nutrients in the soul. This can be seen in the patterns of a personality as such. A person with a child trauma, such as an avoiding issues, will grow up with these patterns inside of the ego, and they surface when the ego detects the polar opposite traits in another person in its environments. In my own observation, this triggers the ego to go into either defense or offense, depending on the environment. This, in many forms, is the human condition playing out over and over and over in many forms and patterns. all overlaid and entangled in so many ways in the human experience. Well, guys, that really is a lot to unpack there. I often use the metaphor of the soul and soul because wrote a series called The Soul Center, which was referencing the human soul or the experience of life. But the soul of the ground is such a good analogy here when we talk about the inside and the outside, and what we feel on the inside ultimately does find its way to the outside. As above, so below, as within, so without. Everything comes from you. And that is truly one of those things that if it doesn't traumatize you, it shocks you in this awe of how amazing the body that you are in truly is. Everything that is like inside of the human body. Did you know that there are 50 trillion living cells inside of the human body? That is your collective. There is the left and the right hemispheres. There's all of these different functions happening in the body that we never have to think about. So many things are happening for you that we oftentimes don't even find time to be grateful for those things. And that was one of those aha epiphany moments for me in meditation, was like, wow, I can find all of these things to complain about in life. I don't like this. I don't like that. This thing irritates me. That thing frustrates me. But in a moment of silence, I am reminded of just the magnitude of what it means to be alive and to be present in the moment, to experience the air in my lungs, to feel the wave of goosebumps flowing up and down my body, feeling electric and observing creation because it is already complete. And that is truly amazing because the imagination itself is, to me, it has to be the number one of the 7 wonders of the world. And I don't even think it's on the list. But the human imagination, it's hard to prove or disprove it even exists, but we all have it. And that is amazing. So this blue notebook changed my life because for the first time in my own life experience, I sat down and I had a reality check with myself. I had a get real moment with myself. And this really does revolve around the idea that we call reality. What is real to me and you is reality. I believe with intention. The future is bright. You have free will. And I repeat this, you have free will. Think in harmony. Think of the life experience. Remember why you are here in the first place. Think of the moment of birth. You have no ego. You have no fears, no worries. And we all have forgotten how we were blinded by the light. All there is and ever was is a connection, but very, very deep within. It was the unconditional bond at first sight, the unconditional love in that bond. We all have egos, and I am no different. I learned a lot of lessons head on. The ego is full of memories. The ego is the guard to the inner self. The ego is the one that you battle when you are battling yourself. So guys, I personally am very grateful for every one of you. And I truly believe in the things that I say, or else I wouldn't say them. Part of the journey for me with the self-talk was learning to speak less about things and also removing a lot of quote-unquote filler words that were in my language. And that was not only personal to me, but it holds a lot of truth to it. These writings revealed so much to me. Then I took it further. I made videos and I reflected on myself. This was a promise that held great value. The key to the universe is already inside of you. And for me, it was a bumpy ride. But I remember clearly, you are so much more on the inside. I see so much. I want to help you grow, process, and understand this gift better. And I have some homework for you. First, people have free will, so don't overthink this one too much. You will have a better understanding as time goes on. In the beginning, we have covered a range of topics, and all of them are in my writings like hidden gems. So writing can be seen in many ways. A story or instructions, healing or something else. It's 100% emotions. Once I cleared out a lot of childhood trauma and started to see other patterns and letting them go, my emotions became calm, and a new connection to my inner self was made. Your homework is to write with me. Let's explore the universe. And I'm going to finish this with some affirmations. I believe I am ready. I believe my time is now. I believe my ego will submit and work in the light. And I believe in unconditional love, giving and receiving. I believe in forgiving and letting go and letting nature take its own course. I believe in myself and I believe in harmony. I believe in teaching and I believe in learning. I believe in healing and I believe in my dreams and intuition. I believe in my imagination and I believe in my spiritual gifts. I believe when I show love, I receive it. I believe change is already happening, and I believe I am grateful for each and every one of you listening to my voice. Guys, I want you to know that I am truly grateful for each and every one of you. This experience for me has been life-changing. It really has been life-changing. And I want every one of you to know out there that anything is possible. If you can dream it, imagine it, visualize it, you can certainly make it become reality.